The nation is on edge. But the parliament is paralysed. All stakeholders on one platform this evening. Who is stalling the parliament?
Take your seat. He wants.
From Manipur to Haryana to Delhi Ordinance to the trust vote. An ethnic crisis, a communal riot, a no-confidence motion to a debate on federalism. Manipur burning, parliament paralysed. Communal riots in Haryana, parliament paralysed. The big debate on To The Point this evening.
Joining me right now is Senior Congress Leader Dipinder Hooda, Rajya Sabha MP. Dipinder Hooda ji, thank you for joining us. Appreciate the time that you've given us. You know, we are at that cross junction there where the nation is on edge on multiple counts, but the parliament remains paralysed. I want to put the focus on a state that you come from right now, which is the state of Haryana, in a riot situation today, Dipinder ji. My question is, the Mewat region always been communally sensitive. What, according to you, went wrong? Because now what it seems, what is spoken of, Chhattis Biradari, Bhaichara, all of that has gone up in smoke.
No, you're right about the situation in Haryana. It's very unfortunate and very painful to see, because Haryana has not had a history of communal flare-ups. In fact, the Mewat region itself, we have never seen communal clashes. Even in 1947, this area remained largely peaceful. So what has happened is truly shocking, painful and unfortunate. And in fact, it is an assessment of everyone on the ground that this is an avoidable situation. It is happened because of absolute governance failure on part of the Khattar government. The government did not take adequate preventive measures that it should have taken. On the day of this procession, there was no police deployment, there was no administration deployment. If in time the government had acted, this could have been totally avoided. So that's the situation. And you know, now I would like to appeal, you know, all our priorities at the moment is to ensure that no further harm is done. There is the situation of remains calm and peace is ensured. So through you, I would like to appeal to all the citizens of Haryana that they should all contribute in whatever way they can to ensure that peace prevails, harmony prevails, because it is on the bedrock of this peace and harmony that Haryana has been able to have a success story like Gurgaon, which is the #1 investment destination in our country today. All the Fortune 500 companies are in Gurgaon.
But Dipinder ji, you talk about Gurgaon. Dipinder ji, you talk about Gurgaon today. It's no longer new. It's no longer Mewat. It's no longer new or Mewat, Dipinder ji. Today in Gurgaon, the millennial city you talk of, people are being told to go work from home, because right now, even 24 hours after the riot, things are still burning, shops are still burning, violence is still rife.
So that's what that is, you know, what I was, you know, pointing to. It is on the bedrock of social harmony, peace. That's such a success story, a growth engine like Gurgaon, which is not only driving the economy of Haryana, but not only NCR, but one of the most important growth engines for our country today. For the first time in its history, has seen communal flare-up, and we need to ensure that all the forces who want to, you know, somehow harm that growth story, they don't succeed. And so that's our first, that should be our #1 priority. That's why I'm appealing to the people. I appeal to the government also. 100% this incident could have been avoided. It has happened because of government failure. But at least now government should take all the adequate steps that are required to ensure safety of the people, security of the people, and to ensure that peace and harmony is restored.
Right.
And I appeal to you also, that all the media channels also, because you know, in such sometimes the media channels tend to take a strategy of exciting news versus playing a constructive role, certain channels, but
Right.
this is not that time.
Well,
this is a
Dipenderji,
time for the media
Dipenderji,
channels
there is
also
never
to play
any
constructive
time.
role, and because it is in national
Dipenderji,
interest.
for any news organization, there is never any time to make a quick buck at the back of tragedy, and you can trust the India Today group not to do so. But I will ask you, Dipenderji, a short while ago, the Chief Minister held a press conference. He's called this a conspiracy. Now, there are leaders within the Haryana government who are blaming the local leadership in New Mewat. The MLA is yours, sir. They are saying that possibly a video was circulated or provocative speeches were made on that side of the divide. Do you condemn both sides who have indulged in this violence, Dipenderji?
See, like I said, this is a complete failure of government. And why do I say that? And the Chief Minister's statement is also a proof of that. There were provocations from both sides, videos were being circulated from both sides, etc., etc. Atmosphere was such. Now a procession is being held in such an atmosphere. Why the police force was not deployed? Why the people were left to fend for themselves? Either the government can claim that they did not have intelligence report. Who has the intelligence department? CID department is with the Chief Minister. B, if the intelligence report was there, then the government decided to sit on it and do nothing. And who has the Home Department? The Home Minister. So who is at blame? It can be either they did not know or they did not act. Now there are reports, some channels have done some sting operations, etc., that the intelligence officers, the CID department inspectors, they are saying that 10 days back they sent the report to the government. But the police, so your channel has done that a sting report where the intelligence officers are saying that about 10 days back they sent the report that this is the situation is inflammatory. But the police department at the same time, police officers are saying that they did not get any directions. So where did that report go missing? Either the Home Minister's office or the Chief Minister's office.
Okay.
Both of them now, Mr. Vij and Mr. Khattar, are saying that there was a conspiracy. If they knew of the conspiracy, why they did not act? That itself proves the point that it's a complete governance failure on part of this government, which our state is paying a heavy price today. For this. Mr. Khattar has gone on to say in his press conference today.
Go ahead, sir.
So he has gone on to say in his press conference today that every citizen, you cannot have police force to provide safety and security for every citizen. Now what kind of statement is this? It is the responsibility of any state government to ensure that each and every citizen feels secure. That's the basic responsibility of any state. If they cannot do it, let them step aside. We will provide safety and security like we did 10 years of Congress rule in Haryana. Not one riot had taken place, not one skirmish, and not one agitation had taken place.
Dipenderji, charges, like I said, are also being laid on your own MLAs.
If Khattar,
so the question arises, Dipenderji, do you condemn whoever is responsible, be it a Muslim, be it a Hindu, be it your own MLA?
What?
Yes, sir.
It doesn't matter. Anybody who is any miscreant whatsoever, any miscreant who is responsible for creating any violence, they should be given exemplary punishment. But along with that, it should be also looked at where the government failed, and the government failure led to this. So both, no culprit should be spared. I demand from the government that they cannot spare anybody. But at the same time, the government should introspect and they should take the moral responsibility of this failure, and that's at least that they should be answerable to the people.
All right, Dipenderji, appreciate you joining us. Thank you there. Of course, it's an election in Haryana very soon next year. A lot of what goes on this time around will have a bearing on next year. We're going to keep a keen eye. I appreciate you joining us, sir. All right, like we pointed out, the nation is on edge on multiple counts where Manipur is concerned, where Haryana is concerned. There is a no confidence motion against this government, but the parliament is paralyzed. What we have done, we've got on one platform the stakeholders, those who possibly should be speaking on parliament, hopefully getting a voice heard here. Connecting right now to Ms. Mahua Moitra from the TMC, Lok Sabha MP. She's joining us live right now. Ms. Moitra, I appreciate you taking the time out and joining us, ma'am. Like I said, there are multiple issues that need to be discussed on an urgent basis with what has gone down in Manipur, with what is going down in the state of Haryana. There is a no confidence motion. There is a bill which the opposition says threatens the federal structure of states. But the fact is, what many would suggest, collectively, the government and the opposition are holding the parliament to ransom. Do you reckon you're failing the people of this country collectively, ma'am?
Just before I start, Preeti, I was told this was a one-on-one.
Ma'am, this is a one-on-one. This is a one-on-one.
Okay, just getting it sure. I'm not sure I want to
get
into
a
slanging match with other people.
Not at all.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. When this charge is being leveled, I want to lay something straight on the table. The House belongs to the opposition, right? A constitutional democracy. Now, what's happened here? What is the issue? Today, especially, I was listening to Dipinder right before me, and we're talking about Haryana. Haryana's happened 2 days ago, and 5 people have died. There have been riots, and everyone's in a state of, obviously, the situation is on edge. Let us compare that to Manipur, where for the last 3 months, people have not been able to come out of their houses, have not been able to lead normal lives. 50,000 people have been displaced, 150 people have died, 100 people have been wounded. It's almost like we're living in 2 Indias. When something happens close to Delhi, when people in Gurgaon are being asked to stay at home and work from home, then there's a state of panic because these are obviously, elite, well-to-do, upper-middle-class people. Whereas if you look at Manipur, it's almost like it's not a part of India. And the Manipuris, the Kukis and the Nagas and the Metis can go 10% themselves. It's been 3 months. And until that video of these 2 women being paraded on the streets came out, actually there was no sense of outrage at all. So right up front, I'd like to say that the Manipur issue is what is very, very important. And the opposition, I wouldn't call it the opposition, I would say the India parties. India has come forward and said that we need to have a debate in the House on Manipur and we need the Prime Minister to be present. Now that is not an unreasonable ask. We are the largest democracy in the world. The Prime Minister has not come to the House for 1 day during this session. This is the most important burning issue. There is ethnic tension. It is ethnic, it's almost like a state of war within the boundaries of India. We want the Prime Minister to be in the House while the debate goes on. The government is absolutely refusing. They say we want no discussion and the Prime Minister will not come. So what do you expect us to do? Normally what happens is when the opposition comes, or in our case, when the India parties come and say that this is of vital importance, we need to discuss this, we need the Prime Minister to be here, any government with a modicum of responsibility, any Prime Minister with a modicum of shame would say, yes, let's have the debate before anything else. What are we forced to do? We are forced to bring forward a no confidence motion. We know that the no confidence motion, we don't have the numbers to bring the government down, but that is the only way to have a discussion. Can you imagine what a state we have been reduced to, that we have to resort to a no confidence motion to have a discussion on Manipur? And the Prime Minister will have to reply on that?
Ms.
They are refusing any discussion. Why should we discuss with the Home Minister there? We want the Prime Minister there.
Ms. Moitra, the fact is, what you say is not an unfair ask. Possibly, yes, it's not an unfair ask, but what it's done in the bargain is give a free pass to the government somewhere to get away with it. Because what's happening right now is, let's see what happened today in Parliament. You agreed to discuss the Delhi bill. Having said that, the Treasury benches started sloganeering, and it was because of them that the House was adjourned. If the opposition or India wants, they can go ahead and have a discussion. What you're doing by digging in your heels and asking the Prime Minister to come in is allowing the government possibly to get away.
1 second. What is getting away? What is getting away? All of India can see this. Now, what is the rule? When the rules very clearly state, parliamentary procedure very clearly states that when a you have 10 days from the time we file for a no confidence for it to be brought to a vote. 10 days. Government has 10 days. The rules of parliament very clearly state that no substantive motion can be brought during these 10 days. Those are the rules of the House. Now, if the Prime Minister, if the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, if the Honorable Speaker chose to completely flagrantly violate the rules and pass bill after bill without the House being in order, what does one do? All we can do is watch. What happened yesterday? They introduced the Delhi Ordinance. We were supposed to have a discussion on it today. India said we will have a discussion. Amit Shah apparently is not in town. So till in the morning, we were told that we would discuss it. Everyone in India came forward to discuss it. At 2 o'clock, pre-planned, the Honorable Speaker doesn't come into his chair. Amit Shah is not in town. He's not sitting in the treasury benches. The BJP treasury benches stand up and start hallagiri, start shouting and screaming, adjourn, no bill. This is a joke. Can you not see this? Is the media deaf? Are they blind? Can they not see this? Can not all of India see this? How is our task is to bring the government is in the dock. We are not in the dock.
But nobody's saying. No.
Ms. Moitra, the government has to answer for its failings. Where are we going wrong? What do we say?
Okay.
We want a discussion of Manipur. They refuse to bring
But because, Ms. Moitra, the discussion on Manipur is so close to your heart and it should be discussed. It's been 80 days and counting, possibly a state which should have president rule right now. But having said that, because you want a full-fledged discussion and you want the Prime Minister, at least begin the discussion. Why let the government get away? Begin the discussion.
How can you have a discussion? In the Rajya Sabha, they are wanting a discussion under 267. Has the chairman given it? No. In our house, we have moved multiple adjournment motions saying, can we discuss it? Has the speaker allowed it? No. Please stick to facts. Has the speaker on day one allowed a motion, allowed the adjournment motion, had allowed a discussion in the Lok Sabha, there would have been no problem. Had the Rajya Sabha chairman allowed a discussion under 267, there would have been no problem. The respective chairman and the speaker has not allowed a discussion. What are we supposed to do? Are we just going to let them get away with it? Are we still supposed to sit here and discuss all sorts of inane bills that they insist on bringing on and let this issue go?
Ms. Mawad, the government says that they wanted to go ahead at least with a short-term discussion, which was even admitted, by your very own party people saying, but you don't want a short-term discussion.
What is a short-term discussion? 4 hours? A short-term discussion is 4 hours. How many parties are there in India? How many parties are there in India? How many people are sitting in the India benches? If every party speaks for even 20 minutes, do we have a discussion on this? Can we have you are telling me as an anchor on a show which is being televised all over India with people watching, with millions of viewers, that a discussion as important as Manipur will take 4 hours? When something like an inane bill on anything, a basic amendment to a bill gives a 6-hour discussion. Is this what we should agree to? Is this fair for the people of Manipur? What are our people in the Northeast thinking? What are our brothers and sisters thinking? That they're not a part of India? Someone dies there's a problem in Gurugram, everyone starts jumping up and down. All over, and Haryana and Gurgaon is so important. Manipur's been burning for 90 days, we don't bring it up.
Ms. Moitra, my final question, and nobody is trying to defend anyone there or trying to put anyone on the mat. They're just trying to decipher it.
But please, absolutely, but please apportion the blame where it is due.
No, madam, question, because there is an attempt on either sides to put the blame where the India alliance is concerned on the government, which your charge is that the government is holding the parliament to ransom, and vice versa. We're just trying to separate on what really is going down. That's what we're trying to do. Therefore, questions will be asked on either sides.
So today, for example, when we had agreed that there'll be a discussion, yesterday the bill was introduced. It was set for consideration at passing at 2 o'clock. While if it was set for consideration at passing at 2 o'clock, it's the Home Ministry's bill. And if they did not have prior knowledge that the Treasury benches were going to make a ruckus, why was Amit Shah not there in the House at 1:59? I have one question to ask. It is because the entire thing was orchestrated and pre-planned. Amit Shah was not in the House at 2 p.m. The BJP benches stood up and shouted and they adjourned the House. You can see for yourself it was orchestrated. Had it not been orchestrated, Amit Shah would have been in the House. Their benches would have shouted. He wasn't even in the House. They had no intention of any consideration and passing of the Delhi Ordinance.
Ma'am, that's exactly what I had quoted, because at this juncture, because you agreed to have...
So that's exactly it. These are the treasury benches. Why are the treasury benches not wanting the House to function?
All right, ma'am, you know, because we're running short of time, and I appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. I want to quickly move on to Raghav Chadda and Pinaki Mishra, as well as Aparajita Sarangi, who are waiting for us. Thank you, Ms. Moitra, for joining us, taking up the time. I will cut across to Mr. Chadda and Mr. Mishra in just about a short while, but let's go and speak with Ms. Aparajita Sarangi. She represents the Bharatiya Janata Party and the government, and many questions that need to be asked there. Joining me right now is Lok Sabha MP from the Bharatiya Janata Party, Ms. Aparajita Sarangi. Appreciate you joining us, Ms. Sarangi. Thank you for taking out the time. Ma'am, multiple questions that come to light right now. The nation is practically on edge on multiple counts. We've seen ethnic violence in a state like Manipur. The state continues to burn. Haryana is in a riot situation 24 hours. We are still seeing scenes of violence where Haryana is concerned. You have a collective opposition which has admitted that they don't have confidence in you anymore. All of this is taking place, while there's also a debate on the BJP or the government trying to compromise the federal structures of states, where Delhi's Ordinance Bill comes into question. All of this swirling, ma'am, and the question comes to light, Parliament remains in paralysis. I want to go one by one. Ms. Sarangi, number one, when it comes down to the violence we are seeing in Haryana right now, the state is in a riot mode. The question I ask you, for the government, if a riot takes place in Bengal, it's the fault of Mamata Banerjee, and it should be a complete failure of her leadership in state. If there are riots in Rajasthan, it's the failure of Ashok Gehlot government. How is it if there are riots in the state of Haryana, it becomes a conspiracy, it becomes something which is Hindu-Muslim and not the responsibility of your government?
A very good evening. Now, let me tell you that breakdown of law and order machinery is definitely the concern of the Ministry of Home Affairs and, of course, the concerned state governments, because law and order is a state subject. Now, as far as the Ministry of Home Affairs is concerned, we are keeping a tab on the situation in Haryana as well as Manipur, and we are working closely with the state governments. See, when such things come to pass, we don't see which government is where. I think let us not go into such accusations by people who have motives. In fact, here is a government headed by Prime Minister Modi, which wants peace and normalcy and tranquility and order across the country. So whether it is Manipur, whether it is West Bengal, whether it is Haryana, I think we would all like to work together with the concerned state governments, whichever political party is running that state government, and we would like to restore normalcy. We are doing so in Manipur, and we would be doing in Haryana. But having said all this, let me tell you that whatever has happened in Manipur should not have happened, and whatever has happened in Haryana should not have happened. And I think the government, both the central and the state governments, would be controlling the situation with all might.
But, I'll come back to the question, Ms. Sarangi, that I asked you, because you've been on my debate, ma'am, and rightly so, you have pointed a finger at Mamata Banerjee during the Bengal violence in the Panchayat polls not a very long while ago. It was the failure of her administration. Why is the BJP and the government falling short on blaming what is going on in Haryana on the Khattar government, ma'am?
See, it has become a fashion to question each and every motive or action of Bharatiya Janata Party. Now, here is a government which is working with the best of intentions, and I request you and all those who are looking at us, who are watching us, please do not question the policy and the intention and the action of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government. We want peace everywhere, and whichever state government is acting partisan or whichever state government is not doing what it should be doing are definitely brought to book, and questions are raised, questions would be raised. That's in the interest of 140 crore Indians, and that's what Prime Minister Modi's government is doing and is trying to do. I think we solicit everybody's support. That's it.
But ma'am, we are free media, free press, so we will be asking questions on either side of the
Please
account.
do.
Yes, we
Please
asked the question to Mamata Banerjee. We've asked the questions to Mr. Gehlot. We're going to ask the question to the Haryana government, and we're going to ask the question of the centre as well. So that prompts me to my next question, Ms. Sarangi, and that is on the issue of Manipur, ma'am. Because a lot has gone down. It's over 80 days right now. We are still seeing some sporadic instances of violence. What has gone down has been unprecedented. There is complete lack of faith where the government of Manipur is concerned. What is stopping on the government of the day to instill president rule, which many see is a must right now? And on the other side, where the parliament is concerned, why is the Prime Minister falling short of coming and speaking in on Manipur? There is a sense that where is the pain? Doesn't he feel the pain of people of Manipur? Doesn't he want to speak to them? Doesn't he want to address the parliament?
Let's try to understand the whole situation with an open mind and a broad heart, and with some kind of rationality and some degree of maturity. On 20th of July, the parliament session began, and on 24th in the morning, I was sitting in the Lok Sabha. Our Home Minister, who is the concerned minister, who is the departmental minister, stood up and said, if you want to debate on Manipur issue, the government here has all the answers to your questions. Let's start the debate. Let's start the discussion. But all these people kept on shying away. They kept on running away from actually getting into the debate. Now, just let me ask you one thing, Preeti. When there is a departmental minister who is in charge of the home affairs, I think it's his prerogative and it is his responsibility rather to actually take the questions and answer all those questions. And as far as Prime Minister is concerned, you cannot force Honorable Prime Minister to come to the Parliament and speak. Now, I take you back to the budget session. We were in the Lok Sabha, the budget was being discussed, and Prime Minister Modi wanted to talk on the achievements of the way we were handling our economy. And immediately, all these opposition parties, all these 26 glowworms who are trying to actually, trying to ensure that the sun doesn't rise, and I'm sure they will fail in this, stood up and said, why should not Madam Nirmala Sitharaman speak about finance and economy of the country, and why should Prime Minister speak? So you cannot have double standards. Now, when there is a departmental minister, let's be rational. He has to speak first. Prime Minister cannot come and initiate a discussion on Manipur. I mean, this is ridiculous. We have to understand. I think we are all educated people. So our Honorable Home Minister would have started the discussion, and then we would have seen how it went. But it did not happen. I think these people created a ruckus. And then, bill after bill was introduced in the Lok Sabha and passed also in the Rajya Sabha. And then thereafter, there was so much of uproar. And we could pass some of the bills, but it is very unfortunate that we had to pass those bills in the interest of the nation, of the nation's welfare and the people. But we wanted discussion. It did not happen.
Well, okay, the fact is maybe the Prime Minister is not, it's not that the Prime Minister is being forced to come and address the Parliament. Wouldn't the Prime Minister want to come and address the Parliament on Manipur? But that aside, ma'am, because I'm short of time, I'm going to cut across to the other question as well. You spoke about bills after bills were being passed. There is a no confidence motion, no trust motion vote that has been mooted and accepted by the Speaker. Having said that, you've been a member of Parliament, ma'am, and one would think that Parliament precedent would demand that no business be conducted in the House till the trust vote comes to a pass. Yet, we've conducted business, which at least where precedent stands is very new. It's never really happened.
Then let's go by the parliamentary procedures. Let's go by the rules and regulations. The government of the country, the parliament of the nation, these are not run through emotions. See, there are two rules we have to understand. Number one, there should be 50 members of parliament who should be asking for no confidence motion, and this matter has to be examined.
The nation is on edge and the parliament is in paralysis. The stakeholders that should be speaking in parliament, we've got them here on one platform. Joining me next, Raghav Chadha, Rajya Sabha MP, Aam Aadmi Party. Raghav Chadha, my first question to you, which I would ask, and I have asked your other India Alliance members, The country is in crisis on multiple levels, multiple states. There's a no confidence motion against the government as well. Why shouldn't you and your alliance, as well as the government, be held accountable for holding the parliament to ransom and the citizens? They are owed a debate in business in parliament.
Well, first of all, the opposition is not holding the parliament to ransom or the government to ransom. It is quite the other way around. The opposition is wanting a debate. Members from the India bloc are submitting notices for discussion on Manipur day after day. More than 25% of the total strength of Rajya Sabha have filed notices over the last 5 working days regularly to seek a discussion on the Manipur issue, a long duration discussion, not a short duration, insignificant kind of a discussion. And unfortunately, the government has not accepted even a single notice, or not willing to give its acceptance to even a single notice. This shows that the government is running away from the debate on Manipur. As far as the other issues are concerned, well, we all know that this government doesn't care about the constitution, doesn't give two hoots about India's democracy, and is hell-bent on destabilizing every non-BJP government in this country. And the Delhi bill, the Delhi Services Bill, is just another initiative, an experiment in the same direction. I can speak about the merits and demerits of the bill, but I will only be able to speak about if I am given an opportunity to participate in Parliament. It's most unfortunate that Parliament today is not functioning because the government doesn't want it to function. I remember, Mrs. Sushma Swaraj and Mr. Arun Jaitley, when they were leader of opposition respectively in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, they used to say this, that it is the government's duty to run the Parliament. The government may have its way, but the opposition must have its say. The opposition must be permitted to speak. And today, mics are being switched off of members when they speak, including the leader of opposition. The government's political executive are not willing to accept a long duration discussion on the issue of Manipur. 9 to 10 precious days of monsoon session have been lost. The government could have accepted for a long duration discussion, and we could have had that discussion on the first day and be done with it. All 9 days, the proper legislative business could have been transacted. But it's the government that's been running away from a discussion.
Mr. Chadha, on the issue of the Delhi Ordinance Bill, the Home Minister Amit Shah tabled the bill in Lok Sabha and very clearly also stating that possibly the opposition is quoting the Supreme Court wrong, because the Supreme Court also did somewhere down the line say that the government can intervene, and the government is intervening. So it's well within its rights to do so as per the government.
This is perhaps the most incorrect reading of the Supreme Court's judgment. The Supreme Court, in its judgment, I think in para 95 of the 2023 Constitution Bench judgment, says that the Union has the power to make laws vis-a-vis Delhi on matters that are mentioned in the 7th schedule in one list or the other. But whatever laws that the centre can make have to be within the 4 corners of the Constitution. The centre cannot come out with an ordinance or bring about a bill and convert it into a legislation that is violative of the Constitution. The Constitution gives you a broad scheme of things. Laws are made in this country to either supplement what the articles of the Constitution hold, or give effect to the articles of the Constitution. You cannot enact a law which is over and above what the Constitution, which is our holy book in terms as far as our governance and democracy is concerned, exceeds. For example, this law is taking away a very critical subject of administration from the elected government of Delhi, that is the services. By virtue of this enactment, services will be snatched away from the elected government and given to the Lieutenant Governor of the central government. Because they say that the Supreme Court has enabled us to pass this law. The Supreme Court's Constitution Bench judgment can then also be tomorrow interpreted, and the government can give whatever powers they want to the Delhi government. And tomorrow the central government can come out with a law saying that from now on, it is the Delhi government that will dictate and decide on the foreign policy between India and the United States of America. Is this permissible? Can the Delhi government decide on the foreign policy and bilateral relations between India and US? They can't. The government of Delhi cannot have foreign policy or external affairs under its subjects of administration, because it is violative of the four corners of the constitution. It far exceeds what the constitution has envisaged for the national capital territory of Delhi. So therefore the no bill can either add to what the Supreme Court has already specified and the constitution has already specified, nor subtract for what the Supreme Court and the constitution bench have already specified vis-a-vis Delhi. So therefore this is a absolutely wrong and a puerile assessment of what the Supreme Court says. Point number one. Point number two, this judgment, this legislation, this bill is an outright contempt of the Honorable Supreme Court. You have reversed the judgment of the Supreme Court within 7 days of its pronouncement without changing the very basis of the Supreme Court judgment. You cannot just reverse it by bringing a bill or an ordinance. You have to change the very basis on which the Supreme Court has passed the Constitution bench judgment. So therefore, in the absence of changing the basis, by bringing a law to reverse what the Supreme Court has said is not only unconstitutional, is also the highest form of contempt of the Honorable Supreme Court. And lastly, this bill absolutely erodes federalism and absolutely erodes whatever little accountability the civil servants in Delhi had towards the elected government. It has absolutely reversed any form of Westminster style government where the elected representatives hold the secretaries and the civil service servants accountable. They have reversed the whole concept. They have made a completely different form of mechanism whereby the civil servants will hold the ministers responsible for their performance. How is it possible? How will the government run like this? I think it is not worth the paper it is written on, and the Supreme Court will in no time will absolutely strike down a bill, ordinance or legislation.
But Mr. Chadha, the fact that there will be different legal and political interpretations of the bill, and we'll soon find out, politically we are already seeing it, legally as well. But having said that, how are you going to maneuver what happens in Parliament when it comes to vote? The likes of YSRCP, the likes of BJD siding up with the government, supporting the government. Even your entire India alliance will not be able to save the bill or Delhi.
Look, as far as YSRCP and BJD are concerned, both these political parties run administrations in two big states in this country. Both have been running state governments for a while now. And yet they have chosen to support the government, yet they have found some merit in a bill like this, which is, quite brazenly snatching away powers from an elected state government. Is quite frankly, very surprising. It's an unpleasant surprise for all of us. However, I can, with the help of a couplet, explain the situation to you that कुछ तो मजबूरियां रही होंगी, यूं ही कोई बेवफा नहीं होता, जी चाहता है बहुत सच बोलूं, क्या करूं हौसला नहीं होता. They must have been subject to some compulsion, some majbooriyan. As a result, they have chosen to support the government. I am pretty sure this is not out of choice, but more out of compulsion for the problems that they face.
Mr. Chadha, if I only remembered it, I would have quoted the couplet back to Mr. Pinaki Mishra, who's joining us right now from the BJD MP Lok Sabha. Thank you, Mr. Chadha, for joining us. Let's cut across to Pinaki Mishra from the BJD. The BJD has decided to support the government where it comes down to the Delhi Ordinance Bill. On the other hand, especially where Manipur is concerned, Mr. Mishra, where the no confidence motion is concerned, your party today stands accused of being selfish, looking at very short-term goals and not looking at what threatens the federal structure of the country, what threatens democracy as per the opposition.
Mr. Naveen Patnaik and the Biju Janata Dal, under his leadership, number one, looks to see what is good for Odisha. There is no doubt about that. Because we are a regional party and we feel that the interests of our state are of paramount importance. And that is why the people of Odisha have given Mr. Patnaik 5 consecutive terms in office and are looking all set to give him a 6th term in 2024. Now, as far as the opposition's charge on the no confidence is concerned and Manipur is concerned, Mr. Patnaik from day one has said that Manipur has to be looked at from a national prism, an undivided prism. Do not look at it from a divided perspective of government, opposition, this party and that party. He's said we have to speak in one voice. We have to go shoulder to shoulder to ensure that the people of that very unfortunate situation who are in a very unfortunate situation in that beautiful state get immediate relief and succor. So he has said that from day one. I have articulated his position when the Honorable Home Minister took a meeting. Now, the opposition, unfortunately, has missed the woods for the trees, as they very often do, as all oppositions do. I think the BJP did that when they were in the opposition to the UPA, and now the Congress and other allied parties are doing it when the BJP is in power. How they miss the woods for the trees is that, if you give the government a free pass in Parliament by obstructing Parliament, the government has nothing to lose. The government continues to pass legislation in the din.
Okay.
The better thing would have been for the entire House to function, for us to participate on every bill and bring in relevant issues, including Manipur, in those, we could weave it into the narrative. So this is a completely short-sighted on the part of the government, or on the part of the opposition.
Mr. Mishra, you talk about legislations and bill. Let me bring up a very controversial legislation and a bill which you've sided with the government on. We had Raghav Chadda just 2 minutes ago. He said there must have been some compulsions that you feel that you've sided up with the government. But the larger question of it, you talk about viewing it from various prisms where the opposition is concerned, the current circumstances. But has your party viewed it from the federal democracy and the spirit of federalism prism? How does the BJD, sir, justify its support for a bill that technically encroaches upon the powers of an elected state government?
Look, Preeti, I'm going to elaborate on this. I was going to do it today on the floor of the House in my speech. Unfortunately, Parliament didn't run. Hopefully, the bill will be debated tomorrow, and you will hear a very well-reasoned debate on why Mr. Patnaik and the Biju Janata Dal has chosen to side with the government on this. It's a purely legal argument. Look, we are next to none on the issue of federalism. But we believe in cooperative federalism. We believe in constructive cooperation. We believe that the state and the center must work in partnership. You cannot perpetually be at war with the center and survive. In the constitution that we have, with the fiscal structure that we have, with the present GST architecture that obtains in this country, it's impossible for a state to just be at constant war with the center needlessly be adversarial on every little issue, behave like school children, and nitpick on every issue with the central government, because you only get the hackles of the central government up, and the central government then digs in its heels, becomes hostile, and it doesn't serve the people of the state well at all. And that's the reason why Mr. Patnaik has been able to do so much for the people of Odisha, because we are the best run state in terms of fiscal management. We are the best run state in terms of administrative machinery, and that's because we don't constantly nitpick and fight with the center. Please understand. So while we will not compromise on issues of federalism, I will explain how the Biju Janata Dal has studied both the Constitution bench judgments of 2018, of May 2023, and very importantly, now the present writ petition challenge and the 7-page order that the Honorable Supreme Court has passed, referring this present writ petition and the present controversy about the ordinance to 5 judges, the Constitution bench. Once you hear my arguments, you will realize that there is a compelling reason why we have gone with the government on this and not with the opposition, because shortly put, let me tell you this, the state of Delhi, the government of Delhi made out a case for a stay in the Supreme Court, pleaded for it, and the Supreme Court has advisedly said that there is a case in favor of the ordinance and therefore no stay is granted. This plea for stay was rejected. Once that is so, and the ordinance therefore is now up for challenge, it will be decided eventually, but then the ordinance to become a bill is just a natural progression. So if the Supreme Court had stayed this, then it's a different issue.
Okay.
Then obviously the ordinance would lapse. But the Supreme Court not having stayed this, it's a pure legal position which people don't seem to be able to understand.
Well, appreciate you joining us, Mr. Mishra, and look forward to your arguments that you wish to make in Parliament if it comes to a discussion at all. But like you pointed out, you've decided to stay with the government. The opposition says by deciding to go with the government, you've let down what is a democratically elected government, which is in Delhi. But we leave it at that. We appreciate all our panelists and guests for joining us. Hopefully, a lot of that discussion should have been happening on the floor of the Parliament, but it is what it is.